He continued on through the oakwood forest until the fires of the little camps came into view. Here, in the clearing, a small group of skin huts was set up under a shelter of a massive rock overhang jutting out over the limestone cliffs. High above, Teo could see the great fire and the endless flame. Thank you. There we go. A white haze. Teo could see the great fire of an endless flame burning brightly, lighting up the entrance to the big cave. A white haze of smoke filled the clearing, and the flickering campfires lit up the darkness. Teo smelled the odor of cooking meat. Fat dropped from the spits, sizzling on the hot coals, as the women grunted to each other and roasted a few ground squirrels and moles that the hunters had brought. Children sat on their haunches in front of the huts, and for many months there had been little food, and their sunken eyes looked up at Teo. He knew his handful of field mice would not go far to ease their hunger. He glanced quickly at Volt's bearskin hut in the center of camp, hoping the big leader would not see him. Then he went directly to the edge of the clearing where two bison skin robes were lashed securely to a frame of cross poles, forming a ragged hut. He knelt down and called out softly, "Kala!" The flap opened, and an old woman peered out. Her square face was lined with wrinkles, and strings of gray hair hung down over her eyes, and she held a child in her arms. She smiled broadly, her big teeth yellow from chewing deer hide and spruce gum. "You're late," she said, "but you're safe." Teo nodded and held out the mice. "We've traveled far, but we didn't get very much." The woman took the mice in her brawny hands. She held them up by the tail. "I still have some grubs and some roots. With that, I can make a meal for the little ones." There was a little girl, an orphan from the winter famine. If it had not been for Kala, the elders would have taken her among the boulders and left her for the hyenas, and by caring for her, she had saved the child's life, much as she had done for Teo. "Now you have another, and another one," said Teo, smiling, touching the woman's shoulder. The woman thought for a moment. "3 so far, and you are the first." Teo remembered it well. She had raised him as her own, and when others turned their backs because of his bad foot, he stayed with her for 12 summers, learning her wisdom and kindness. "The sun is getting warmer. Soon hunting's going to be great, and there'll be enough to eat," he said, even though he feared it might not be true. Perhaps good old Graybeard would come and paint images in the secret cave. If the spirits were pleased, great herds of horses and deer and bison would fill the plains and forest, and people would eat well, and the clan would thrive. There would be many pelts to make new robes and boots, ivory and antlers to make needles, spears, and knives. Kala and Teo talked for just a few more minutes. Then the woman listened and put her finger to her lips. "Go," she whispered, "before Volt gets here." She went back into the hut and closed the flap, and for a moment Teo could hear her humming to the little ones as she started her meal. And Teo went to the center of the camp, near the large fire. He turned over the rest of his mice. He was almost there when a dark shadow fell across his path. It was Volt, the leader. The big man planted himself in front of the boy. His sheepskin robe was singed and stained with blueberries. Oh, I mean blackberries. He wore a necklace of bear claws. His dark beard was wild and unkempt. Teo felt a sinking feeling in the pit of his stomach. He stood firm. In the light of the fire, he saw the man's cheek, gashed with livid scars that always turned his face into an ugly scowl. The man pointed his fat, hairy finger at the boy and grunted, "Where you been?" Teo hesitated at first. Stopped down by the meadow to kick it for a while. I was just down there by the meadow chilling, so I was just at the meadow, so no biggie. The man grumbled. "You're always late. You're behind the others, and you're wasting your time dreaming. And you're a poor excuse for a hunter, especially when everybody's hungry." Teo saw other hunters gather around, attracted by the harsh words. Good, Teo thought. Now he would tell him about the wolf dog. Wolf dogs were taboo. But he didn't have to tell them that he tried to feed it. Maybe the others would listen. "I heard a noise in the grass," said the boy eagerly. "I wondered what it was. I thought..." Volt shook his head and interrupted gruffly. "Enough!" he shouted. "We don't need wondering. We don't need thinking. We don't need dreaming. We need food." The heat of anger flushed in Teo's cheek. This man was like a mountain. He would not listen at all. No way, no how. His words were harsh and sullen. He would tell no more. He handed Volt the pouch full of mice. The big man grunted again, glaring down. "And where's the rabbit?" Teo's body stiffened. He had forgotten the rabbit. Volt stepped closer, his eyes narrowing. "You ate the rabbit?" The other hunters crowded around the boy. "You ate the rabbit?" Volt repeated, his voice taut. Teo shook his head, unable to speak. "Garth, the black-bearded one, he was always with Volt. He knocked him down to the ground." And Teo lay there, looking up at a tight ring of spears. "No! I would never eat while others go hungry." Volt brushed back his hand across his scarred cheek. "Well, then where's the rabbit?" Teo squirmed in the sharp stones pressing against his shoulders. "I forgot the rabbit when I was kicking it down at the meadow. Oh, my bad. My bad. I forgot it." Garth looked down at him, frowning and shaking his head. The men moved closer with spears. Garth's shadow falling across Teo's face, and he saw anger in their eyes. Volt pushed them aside. "Wait! I have a better way." He pointed off into the darkness where the tops of the oak trees were black against the purple night. "Go!" With a sneering grin spread across his face. "You say there's a rabbit in the meadow? Then go get it. Go get your rabbit in the meadow. Go then." "I'm gone. We'll go. I'm going." "And don't you dare come back until you do. Maybe then you'll keep your mind on hunting." Good old Tay got to his feet, brushing himself off. He did feel some anger, but mainly angry at himself for his own carelessness. And he was also angry that no one would listen. He walked out of the camp and he saw a woman reach into the fire and pull out a flaming willow torch. She handed it to him. Teo instantly saw it was Kala. He wanted to speak, but she nodded slightly, and her deep green eyes warned him. Shh, shh, shh. Teo made his way through the oak forest until he came to the foot of the cliffs bordering the grasslands. He held up his torch and limped across the dried-out stream bed and the scattered boulders. Once or twice he thought he heard something moving in the grass. When he spun around, nothing but willow trees. Now he was tired and hungry. The worst 1-2 punch that there is. First he had to go find that rabbit. He followed the cliff down to the middle and looked around at the patch of sand. It was eerie with the light of the torch. Darkness closed in, and everything looked the same. The rocks, the bushes, the clumps of grass. Finally, he saw the sand patch with the scuffed out drawings he made that afternoon, and he poked around his spear in the torchlight. Then his heart sank. The rabbit was gone. In its place were the pug marks of a large hyena. Now he knew he could not go back to camp. Not tonight. Maybe not tomorrow. Not until he had found another rabbit.